Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Abdulrahman Yousuf, and today I want to be updating you on news in Alberta. So I'll be starting talking about the COVID-19 update in Alberta first. Canada has 67,003,375 cases. Alberta has 11,002,091 cases, 1,307 deaths. British Columbia has 58,107 cases, 1,110 deaths total. Manitoba has 26,540 cases, 748 deaths. New Brunswick has 817 cases, 11 deaths. Newfoundland and Labrador has 393 cases, 4 deaths. Nova Scotia has 1,534 cases, 65 deaths. Ontario has 22,002,023 cases, 5,553 deaths. Prince Edward Island has 103 cases, 0 deaths. Quebec has 23,002,624 cases, 8,784 deaths total. Saskatchewan has 18,007,070 cases, 204 deaths. Northwest Territories has 24 cases, 0 deaths. Nunavut has 266 cases, 1 death. And Yukon has 70 cases and 1 death total. So these are the cases that we have in Canada. Now I'm going to be moving on talking about politics and news that are moving on everywhere. So government secure another 20 million COVID-19 vaccine dose from Pfizer. Canada has reached an agreement to purchase another 20 million doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine COVID-19. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said today the doubles the numbers of doses the country has lacked it from the U.S. pharmaceutical giant and brings the total number scheduled to arrive this year from 2 approved vaccine makers to 80 million, enough to vaccinate the entire Canadian population according to the required 2 doses. From our agreement with Pfizer and Moderna alone, we are on track to have every Canadian who wants to vaccinate receives one by September, Trudeau said at a press conference outside Rudolph Hall. We're going to continue working to see if we can get a few more doses because all Canadians want this to move forward as quickly as possible. Canada has now committed to buying 40 million doses from the BioNTech vaccine and 40 million doses from the Moderna, with the option to purchase another 36 million from the Pfizer-BioNTech if chooses 6 million are expected to arrive by the end of March, even to immunize 3 million people, Trudeau announced come days after the pharmaceutical said the federal government has chosen not to exercise its option to buy up to 16 million more doses of Moderna COVID-19 vaccine. At a separate news conference, Anden said she chose not to purchase those remaining doses because Moderna couldn't guarantee delivery before September. As of Monday night, more than 38 million thousand doses of COVID-19 vaccine had been administered in Canada, out of 54 million 8,000 doses distributed to provinces and territories. The federal government has come under enormous pressure to speed up the delivery of vaccine as Canada experienced a post-holiday surge in cases and deaths and as fears as rise about the spread of coronavirus strain, first identified in the UK that is more transmissible than other variables. Several provinces are warning that they are administering doses faster than they are being delivered. Premier Jason Kenney of Alberta said Monday that Alberta could exhaust its vaccine supply as early next week, while BC Provincial Health Minister Officer Dr. Bonnie Henry said the province would run out of by the end of the year. Ahead of the expected Thursday delivery, the federal government pushed a delivery schedule this week that includes shipment dates and numbers of doses expected to be delivered to provinces and territories until the end of February. We're continuing to work with various vaccine companies to accelerate to move forward to get more doses for Canadians as quickly as possible, Trudeau said. Right now, we've been able to give very clear direction and information to the provinces on how many vaccine doses they will be receiving every week between now and end of February, which allows them to plan up to manage the rollout process. Separately today, the National Advisory Committee on Immunization concluded the second doses of both BioNTech and Moderna COVID-19 vaccine should be given no more than 6 weeks after the first. The recommendation was announced by Dr. Carnell, chair of the committee, during the interview granted on Tuesday to the Radio Canada program, a few hours before the publication of the committee recommendation. The recommendation intended for Public Health Agency of Canada allow for long pauses between doses that can manufacture recommended. So these are the cases that we have so far that are going to be in Canada, and that's how the vaccine are going to be distributed. Now we're going to be going to world and talking about what's happening. Um, Donald Trump, a norm-shattering presidency, risking earning new restrictions over the coming days that will train him into his post-presidency and far into the afterlife. The U.S. president political will carry the legacy of two upcoming votes in the House of Representatives, including an impeachment in the fallout of the last week mob attack on the U.S. Capitol that he accused of in spring. Trump will soon likely become the only U.S. president impeached twice, the only president formally targeted for explosion under the 25th Amendment, and possible but for far less likely the only president convicted by the Senate and barred from the evening seeking again. The first in the series of the votes expected Tuesday night after 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time in the House. The president represents the amendment, a threat to our Constitution, our country, and American people, and we must be removed. And he must be removed from the office immediately, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, a Democrat, said Monday. The president's threat to America is urgent, and so too will be our nation. Pelosi laid out a two-step plan that begins the vote on 25th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution enacted in the wake of John F. Kennedy assassination. It allows a change in leadership if body of Congress, the vice president, and more than the half of the cabinet agree, the president. Given the slim chance of Vice President Mike Pence and the majority of the cabinet turning on the president, Democrats have prepared Plan B for the next day, an article of impeachment to be voted on as early as Wednesday that accuses the president of enacting an assurance for his role in the attack of the U.S. Capitol last week. The resolution noted that the Trump addressed a rally shortly before his supporters mounted the attack and says he made statements that encouraged the foreseeable result in the lawless action at the Capitol. Impeachment appears to have the votes to pass the House based on Democrat support alone, although it could also attract a few Republicans. The question may well ask, and Republicans are certainly asking, is why now Trump is slated to leave office in a week and just promised a peaceful transition. The main Republican argument against impeachment is that this move will drop a match on a country that's political tender. That tender box already shows signs of blowing. The FBI warns of plans for armed protesters across the country. There is a chatter on social media about military attack. At least 10,000 National Guard troops are being called to the Capitol, and even the Washington Mountains is being shut down in threats. Republicans are urging the rivals to move on and to let President-elect Joe Biden launch his presidency under identifying terms focus on enacting his own agenda. Even one Democrat senator thinks this is a poor idea. Joe Manchin, a Virginia, called this is a terrible moment for impeachment. There is still ill-advised, told Fox News he predicts impeachment would far gain in a Senate trial, just like did last year, and only sour the start of Biden's presidency. Two arguments for impeaching now. Impeaching supporters offer two rights to that. One is a principle and the other is practical. One matter of principle, they say the current US president richly deserves this. That will stain his legacy and says it also establishes necessary boundaries to future presidential behavior. Some legal scholars interviewed agree Trump deserves this sanction. The second impeachment will certainly that Donald Trump will be listed the last on the list of the best to the worst presidents said. Without question, Trump the worst president in American history. He said the president, in his opinion, has probably committed five or six known impeachable acts throughout his presidency. Then there is a practical reason, and it has more to do with the 4 year period ahead of us than the 4 years we've just witnessed. It's about whether Trump can be stripped of his power going forward, a power that stems in the part of his ability to run for office again. It's notable that the impeachment article drafted by Democrat lawmakers refers to the Constitution's Fourth Amendment written after the Civil War, if forbid anyone engaged in the insurrection from ever again seeking political office. So if the House impeaches Trump, Senate Republicans will have two two hot potatoes to handle. One is obviously question of whether to convict Trump. The second, arguable, more questionable if the Senate did not actually convict him with a penalty would it impose. That punishment could include disqualification for future office, which would require a simple majority vote according to his historical non-presidential impeachment cases. Don't automatically assume Senate Republicans will be as supportive of Trump as the last time he was impeached. One observers suspect many Washington Republicans would love to bury Trump politically. Legal ethic scholar Clark said they would have a variety of motivations for wanting to sideline Trump, including those with their own ambitions to run for president in 2024. I think I think very few people in the Senate, including Republicans, want Donald Trump running for president again or exercising leadership in the country, said Cunningham, a professor of law and ethics at Georgia State University. Republicans were scared of Trump supporters. He says the current wording mistake said providing the someone inciting. Republicans have another reason to fear going along with this, one that speaks to the gravity of this American political moment. It involves angrily people like the mob that stormed the Capitol. A rookie congressman from Michigan, Republican Peter, wrote in about the terror his colleagues faced. He said he knows one lawmaker who voted to overturn the election results last week, Wednesday night, at a fear that family members might be harmed. So there's going to be an impeachment that is going to be coming, and is going to be crazy. And tomorrow will be the impeachment day that we're going to be seeing, and we will see a lot of that happening in the impeachment. That's going to be a thing. US President Donald Trump is advising to be careful of what we wish for as House lawmakers consider a solution calling on Vice President Mike Pence to invoke the 25th Amendment to declare the president unable to serve. Pence is not expected to take any such action regardless of the vote in the House this evening. Trump said Tuesday as he visited the southern border wall in Texas that the 25th Amendment is a zero risk to me, but will come back to haunt Joe Biden and the Biden administration. He added, as the expression goes, be careful of what you wish for. Earlier, as he left Washington for town, Texas, Trump took no responsibility for his part in formatting the violence at the U.S. Capitol last week, despite his comments encouraging supporters to march on the Capitol and his praise for them while they were still carrying out the assault. People thought that what I said was totally appropriate, Trump said. He added in his remarks this afternoon, "We believe in the rule of law, not in violence or rioting," a different tone from the message he sent his supporters last week when he told them he loves them and they will be very special. The ring through the halls of Congress sent lawmakers of both parties and Trump-owned Vice President into hiding. Crowds called for Mike Pence launching for his role overseeing the vote count. The scene also admired of the National Republic of the peaceful transition of power. At least 5 people died, including one Capitol police officer. Federal prosecutors Tuesday said they are looking at bringing significant cases involving possible and conspiracy theory charges in connection to the riots. U.S. Attorney General Michael Sherwin, who provided an update on criminal charges at the Justice Department news conference, said that some of the missed charges brought against the people who breached the Capitol were intended a placeholder count and that more serious charges including are possible. He said Justice Department has created a specialized task force that will look at everything from travel to movement of the individuals. In the days leading up to the 6th January vote, Trump encouraged his supporters to disseminate on Washington, D.C., promising a wild rally support of his baseless claims of election fraud despite his own administration finding to the contrary. Speaking for more than an hour to a crowd in Ellipse that day, Trump encouraged supporters to fight like hell and suggests that Republican lawmakers would need more courage not to step up and overturn the will of voters to grant him another term in office. He also suggested he would join them in marching on the Capitol. As Trump wrapped up, thousands of his supporters were already heading to the Capitol, where lawmakers had convened to court the election votes. Trump headed to Alamo, Texas City and Rio Valley, the U.S.-Mexico border, the site of the 72-kilometer border wall in his administration building. Trump visit came as he spent the final days of his presidency isolated and staring down the prospect of second impeachment. But Trump has repeatedly resisted their efforts as he has remained in the White House behind closed doors, consumed of baseless allegations of voter fraud and conspiracies. A few dozen Trump supporters rallied hours before he visited the Rio Grande. So I can continue reading on more, but he's leaving office, and that's good. And we will see, hopefully, Joe Biden when he gets sworn in next Wednesday. Hopefully, when he swears in safely. And I wish him a good. I wish him the best when I'm so worried for him because especially what happened last Wednesday, it was scary what we saw in the White House, and hopefully that doesn't happen again on the day of Biden's inauguration day. Hopefully that doesn't happen that day. Now we be moving on talking about Ford government. There's a lot of things that happened on Ontario today too. Ontario declared state of emergency, issued stay-at-home order beginning Thursday. Ontario has declared a state of emergency to surge of COVID-19 cases and issues a stay-at-home order that takes effect Thursday at 12 a.m. Eastern Time, Premier Ford announced. The stay-at-home order issued Tuesday does not affect essential activities such as accessing healthcare, shopping for groceries, exercising, or doing essential work. However, the new measures do including restriction the hours of operation for non-essential retail stores such as hardware stores to between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Our province is critic, Ford said. The system is on the brink of collapse. It is on the brink of being overwhelmed. As a part of the new measures, outdoor organized public gathering and social gathering are further restricted to no more than 5 people with limited expectations. People are required to wear a mask or face covering in indoor areas of businesses or organizations that are open, and wearing a mask or face covered is now recommended outdoors when you can't physically distance more than 2 meters. The province is also set schools in 5 hot spot regions: Toronto, Hamilton, Peel, York, and Windsor. Essex will not reopen for in-person learning until February 10th. Community transmission is widespread in our hospital and in our long-term care homes and in our workplace, Health Minister Christine Elliott said Tuesday. Earlier, the province released grim new modeling figures that shows the deaths in second wave are expected to exceed first wave total if Ontarians don't significantly reduce their contact with others. Almost 40% of the province's long-term care homes now have active outbreak of virus, including two figures released Tuesday since the start of the New Year's. 198 long-term care residents and 2 staff members have died, and the modeling suggests there will be actually be more deaths in long-term care in the pandemic second wave compared with the first. About one-quarter of Ontarian hospitals have no ICU capacity left, while another quarter have only 1 or 2 beds available at any given time, Brown said. He added that the hospitals with very limited or no ICU capacity are spread throughout the province. This is no longer an issue of 1 or 2 regions. Ontarians moved into a province-wide lockdown on December 26 with tighter restrictions on gatherings and closures of non-essential businesses. The updated of modeling and new restrictions come on the heels of Ontario hitting record highs in the new COVID-19 cases, deaths, and hospitalizations since the start of the New Year's. On Tuesday, Ontario reported 2,903 new cases and 41 new deaths, bringing the province's official death total to 5,053, behind only Quebec. Elliott said the new restrictions include 8 people who became affected with a variant of coronavirus that was first detected in the United Kingdom, bringing to 14 number of cases of the variant identified in Ontario. Researchers have shown the strain to be more transmissible than the one common strain circulating in Canada. It's not believed to be more deadly. The numbers of COVID-19 patients in hospital increased to a record of 1,701. Of those, 385 are in intensive care and 262 require the use of the ventilator to breathe. As of 2:45 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, Canada had reported 67,003,375 cases of COVID-19, with 81,654 cases considered active. A CBC News tally of deaths stood at 17,188. The federal government has reached an agreement to purchase another 20 million doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced Tuesday. In Atlantic Canada, Prince Edward Island reported 1 new cases of COVID-19 on Tuesday, along with 1 new recovery. The number of active cases in the province stayed at 8. Newfoundland and Labrador reported no new cases. Nova Scotia announced 1 new cases in the province on Tuesday. The province also announced mandatory testing for rotational workers returning to Nova Scotia after working in another part of the country. The higher numbers of cases, especially in Alberta, where many Nova Scotians work, is considering Premier Stephen McNeil said at a press brief. New Brunswick reported 17 new cases of infection and 2 new deaths. On Tuesday, health officials said the death involves 1 person in their 70s and 1 in their 80s who were residents of the retreatment faculty in St. John's. In Quebec, Premier François Legault is standing by his decision to impose an overnight curfew as well to reopen elementary schools on Monday in spite of the recent surge in cases and hospitalizations. The province reported 1,934 new cases and 47 new deaths on Tuesday. The number of people hospitalized due to COVID-19 rose to 1,497 people, including 221 in intensive care. Saskatchewan announced 248 new cases and 5 more deaths. The provincial government also announced extending the public health rules until at least January 29 due to current transmission rates. British Columbia health officials announced 1,475 new cases of COVID-19 in the province over the last 3 days, along with 22 deaths, which pushes BC death total to over 1,000. So this is what's happening in Canada, and that's what's happening everywhere, including Canada and everywhere. But that's all I have for today. This is the news. This is everything. It's supposed to be an hour, but today I came late to tell the news. So hopefully tomorrow it will be an hour at 2 p.m. Mountain Time. Join me tomorrow at 2 p.m. Mountain Time to do the news and to do those things. I hope everybody have a great day, and I wish you good luck and stay safe.